there, film lovers, gather round, it's time to chat. With Alicia and Art, let's tip our hats to the magic in the frames, the stories that gleam on the hidden gems of cinema. Join the dream. A stroll through history, let me take you there. Edison's trust, it's the spark that lit the flare. Cameras rode with wonder, oh, what a sight. Pioneers like Lumiere turning dark into light. Oh, Universal and Paramount, the giants bold, building dreams in Hollywood, treasures to behold. From silent films to talkies, we'll learn it all. Grab your popcorn, it's cinema's call. Hidden gems of cinema, shining bright, you'll see. A journey through the camera, history's jubilee. From celluloid to streaming, watch how stories grow. With Alicia and Art, it's a fab show. Yeah. Let's waltz through the eras, feel the reels unwind. 20th century classics, golden age is defined. Gone with the wind and Casablanca's glow. Let's talk about the legends, let their voices flow. The sitcoms that made us, the dramas that move, television history will groove and approve. Every gem unearthed, a diamond in time, critically acclaimed. Every story a rhyme, hidden gems of cinema, shining bright, you'll see. A journey through the camera, history's jubilee. From celluloid to streaming, watch how stories grow. With Alicia and Art, it's a fab show. So tune in real close, don't let it slip away. Stories worth sharing, they'll brighten your day. Each film is a treasure, each episode's a treat. Join us on this journey. Oh, it can't be beat. Gather round, cinema friends, we've reached the end. Hidden gems of cinema, where the past transcends. Alicia and Art, the duo you adore. Join us for the stories, we've got so much
Hello.
Hey everybody, this is the Dream Team. So I'm Alicia, that's my husband Art or Jack,
Hello.
and we're back with another episode of Hidden Gems of Cinema. Today's episode we're going to be discussing about 3D, William Fox, and Carl Laemmle. Not in that order though. So it's going to be basically as soon as these finish processing, which should take less than hopefully 5 minutes, We're going to be talking about 3D, and then we'll lead into William Fox and Carl Laemmle. So here's the thing about Carl Laemmle, that basically we know him from Universal and how he basically helped make the Universal monsters become more well known, basically.
Well, that was his son.
Okay, so yes,
Yeah.
we'll be discussing that. And then William Fox, I think because of him, now we have the 20th Century Fox, which is no longer 20th Century Fox, but is
Which
now,
is now Hulu.
and Disney, yes.
It's basically Hulu now. Yeah, if you go to any Hulu event or anything and you look at all the shows that Hulu does now, it's basically Fox. Whatever was left of Fox is what it is now.
Right. And also, we're going to be discussing how 3D. So, 3D, we always think of it as a modern invention. No, we're going to find out how it actually goes back to the 1830s, how it also led into where we had those really funky glasses that many of us wore, which one was red and one was blue. And it helped us to see what was considered 3D at the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have some props for you guys to see what 3D would have looked back in the 1830s and led into the 1890s, which is very similar to the Viewmasters that some of us grew up with, basically.
Which, by the way, we should have pulled out. I have a 1940s Viewmaster.
Nice.
The original one, and with some of the old school reels that comes with it, but we didn't have enough time.
Yeah, we were rushing a little bit today. I mean, this time we were basically trying to wrap up my segment. My segment ran a little bit longer, trying to get things together, basically. But we'll be basically, hopefully, we hope you enjoy the show regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, in this one, we're going to go into the beginnings of Universal.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun. The beginnings of Fox Film Corporation, which will later be part of 20th Century Fox, and how they fought against Thomas Edison's patents company, as well as build their own empires.
Right, because the last time we saw them, they had just left New Jersey. They were now starting to begin in the LA area, and they're starting to expand more westward, more into California at this point.
Yes, because they're tired of Edison and his poop.
Yes, because he's just basically, unfortunately, Edison was a bit of a control freak. He wanted to run everything himself and didn't trust anybody to do it but himself.
Yeah. So, like, what's the earliest 3D movie do you remember seeing?
The earliest 3D movie I remember seeing, I know one, but it came later, was Spy Kids 3D, Game Over. And let me see, the earliest one I remember, I feel like it was a cartoon of some kind.
Well, did you know that, like, as far back as like the 80s, like they had Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. The 80s had like a little bit of a spurt of 3D. I know Jaws. They did Jaws in 3D as well.
Correct. We'll find out how, when we get into the segment, it will just discuss how in the 50s there was a lot of films that were done in 3D. Even Alfred Hitchcock himself had one of his movies done in 3D as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 3D lasted a good little while. So here's the thing about 3D. It's never technically faded away. We see it basically drift into the shadows, then it comes back out, drifts into the shadow, comes back out, drifts in shadows, come back out. It's a cycle that it does, basically, in this case.
Right. And I know you touch on it a little bit in the segment, but the earliest 3D movie I had seen was Captain EO, actually, in Disneyland. If you went to Disneyland back, in the 80s and 90s, they had this, large theater, and in it was a large 3D theater. It had like a little laser effects. It had fog effects that coincided with the film. It had it had these special polarized glasses. They weren't the red and blue ones. I remember the red and blue ones. I was always, they were never, in my opinion, they were never really that good.
Correct.
I could never really get that 3D effect with the red and blue ones.
Yeah.
The same way you can get those polarized glasses. That was from back then. So when they did 3D for Captain EO, it was with those type of glasses. They didn't do the
Hmm.
red and blue thing. And I
Okay.
know I know for Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, they have a whole segment, the whole section in the dream area, the dream section where you go inside Freddy's brain. That
Hmm.
whole section was actually done in 3D as
Okay.
well. And it used to the DVDs and used to come with glasses,
Okay.
but there were the red and blue ones.
Right. Because I remember when my mom purchased the 3D version of Spy Kids, that it included like four pairs of glasses that you could get with that. And it when you had the DVD, there had two discs. One was the 3D one, and one was the 2D one. And I remember with the 3D one, so I sometimes do this when I have 3D glasses. I'll put it like this, peek it through my actual glasses, and I could see there was some kind of effects that they were trying to create with that, basically. But was it perfect? No. I mean, now they have the ones that more like sunglasses kind of thing, which I've
Hmm.
seen many, many times. I mean, I know we've gone to I believe it's the Air and Space Museum here in California,
Yes.
that is basically just like regular like sunglasses, kind of like you said, polarized ones and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then that way you don't have to switch back and forth saying, "Oh, I don't see the effect." Now they've got it a little bit more better, because one of the things I will mention, that when they were first doing it, if they didn't do it properly, you would end up with headaches, nausea, and it just had bad effects on the audience, unfortunately. I mean, there was a version that they did of three. It wasn't technically 3D, but basically, when they were doing the horror films in the 50s, is to get people, quote, more immersed into it, is that they would basically move the chairs around, making them feel like they were in that actual film. And
Yeah.
sometimes they would have something like throw popcorn at them, or something grab their legs, or they would put like air vents where you felt like the wind was rushing past your head, kind of thing. That's a little bit different, but it's very similar. I think they call that more like 4D effect, basically, because there are certain theaters that do that, but it's not technically 3D because you're not wearing the glasses in those cases, basically.
Right. Right. That's true. So yeah. So like I mean, we're pretty. I think we're pretty close to.
Yes, so I think we're ready to start our segments now, because now they look like they finished processing. Thank you for bearing with us, folks. Took a
Mhm.
little bit longer than we expected, but hopefully you have a little bit of understanding about how the 3D was. And like I said, 3D has been around a little bit longer than we expected, and we will reference a Back to the Future character. So we don't mention him by name, but we always know him as 3D because he wears the 3D glasses, and we will show him in this as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, sit back and enjoy the history of 3D, folks. Think about the last time you had watched a movie in 3D. Maybe it was Avatar. Maybe it was a superhero flick where a piece of concrete looked like it flew directly at your nose. You paid an extra $4, sat in a dark room wearing slightly sticky plastic glasses, and probably thought to yourself, wow, technology is getting so advanced. Well, I hate to break it to you, but the core technology behind that 3D movie is older than the airplane, older than the telephone, and older than the light bulb. Welcome to the show. Today we're stepping out of the flatlands of 2D history and diving into the third dimension. Because the history of 3D media isn't a story of steady technological progress, it's a wild, repetitive cycle of media executives panicking, audiences getting headaches, and a technology that refuses to die. We're tracking 3D from Victorian parlor tricks and comic books to Hollywood gold rushes and VR headsets. Pop on your cardboard glasses. Let's look at the history. To find the birth of 3D, we have to travel all the way back to 1838. A British scientist named Sir Charles Wheatonson figured out something fundamental about human biology: stereopieces.
Because our eyes are about 2.5 inches apart, each eye sees the world from slightly different angle. Our brains take those two flat images, fuse them together, and calculate depth. Wheat and Sims realized that if you took two slightly different drawings and viewed them through a series of mirrors, you could trick the brain into seeing 3D. By the late 1800s, this evolved into stereoscope. These handheld viewers became an absolute obsession. If you were a well-to-do Victorian, you didn't scroll Instagram, you sat in your parlor, slid a double-printed photograph card into a wooden viewer, and stared at a 3D image of the Egyptian pyramids or Niagara Falls. It was the world's first true visual mass medium. But print media wanted to drop that bulky wooden viewers. Enter the 1890s and the invention of anaglyph images. You know exactly what this is, even if you don't know the word anaglyph. Anaglyph is the process of printing one image in red ink and a slightly offset image in cyan or blue ink. When you put on those classic paper glasses with the red and blue lenses, the red lens blocks the red image, the blue lens blocks the blue image, and boom, your brain fuses them into a single three-dimensional image. By the 1920s and 30s, this exploded into print. Comic books used it to make monsters leap off the page. Even educational textbooks use anaglyph layers to show medical students the human body and skeleton or complex geometry in 3D. But print was just the testing ground. The real madness started when the images began to move. Let's skip ahead to 1952. Hollywood was facing a massive existential crisis. A terrifying new monster had entered the American living rooms, the television. People were staying at home to watch TV for free instead of buying movie tickets. Sound familiar? Theater owners panicked. They needed something the glowing box at home couldn't provide. They needed a gimmick. By late 1952, an independent film called Bwana Devil hit theaters. It was the first feature-length color 3D movie. The tagline, "A lion in your lap, a lover in your arms." It was an absolute sensation and kicked off the golden age of 3D cinema. Between 1952 and 1954, Hollywood pumped out over 50 major 3D releases. We're talking horror classics like The House of Wax and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and even high art like Alfred Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder. Contrary to popular belief, these 1950s movies didn't usually use the cheap red and blue paper glasses. They used polarized light technology, which allowed for full, rich color. But there was a catch. To make it work, theaters had to run two separate projectors at the same exact time, perfectly synchronized down to the individual frame. If one projector drifted even slightly out of sync, the audiences got hit with instant eye strain, nausea, and massive headaches. By 1955, the fad was dead. Audiences grew tired of the headaches and the lazy storytelling that relied on actors throwing things at the camera. Hollywood moved on to widescreen formats like CinemaScope, and 3D was packed away in the attic. Act 3, the 80s, the 90s, and the Avatar boom. But 3D never stays buried for long. In the 1980s, it crawled back into theaters with the horror sequels like Friday the 13th Part 3D and Jaws 3D. But it was still plagued by the same issues, ghost in images and bad headaches. Then came the 1990s. 3D found a safe haven in theme parks and IMAX museums. If you went to Disney World, you saw Honey, I Shrunk the Audience or Michael Jackson's Captain EO. These worked because the theaters were custom built, high-tech environments where the dual projectors could never fall out of sync. But the biggest, loudest resurrection happened in December of 2009. James Cameron released Avatar. Cameron didn't just use 3D as a gimmick to poke the audience in the eye. He used a newly developed digital camera system to create depth of field, making the alien world of Pandora feel like an extended infinitely beyond the screen. Digital projection completely solved the synchronization issues of the 1950s. Avatar became the highest grossing film of all time, making $3 billion. Sadly, every studio in Hollywood demanded 3D, but instead of filming movies with expensive 3D cameras, they did post-conversion, taking regular 2D movies and using software to chop them into artificial 3D layers. If you remember watching Clash of the Titans in 3D back in 2010, you know how dark, muddy, and cheap it looked. At the same exact time, tech companies tried to bring 3D into the living rooms. Between 2010 and 2013, electronics companies threw billions into marketing. 3D TVs. Nintendo even launched the Nintendo 3DS, a handheld gaming console that promised 3D without the glasses. But guess what? History repeated itself. Audiences didn't want to wear heavy battery-powered glasses on their couch just to watch the evening news. By 2017, major manufacturers officially stopped making 3D TVs. The wave crashed once again. Conclusion: the next dimension. So where does that leave us today? 3D hasn't disappeared, it's just migrated. It left the movie theater screen and strapped itself directly onto our faces. The current generation of virtual reality and extended reality headsets, like the Meta Quest or the Apple Vision Pro, are the direct descendants of Sir Charles Wheatonson's 1838 stereoscope. They use the same exact biological trick, projecting two separate offset perspectives to simulate a world with real depth. For nearly 2 centuries, creators have been trying to shatter the flat prisons of screens and pages. Every few decades, the technology changes, but the human desire remains identical. We want to step inside the stories we love. The next time a new 3D trend emerges and everybody hypes it up as the absolute future of technology, just smile, think of those Victorian parlors, and remember, we've been looking at the world this way for a very long time. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this trip through the third dimension, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, keep your eyes wide open.
All right.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys some actual stereograph images of what they look like, basically. So I'm going to make myself large.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys can see what they actually look like. So these are from our own personal collection that Art bought years before we met each other.
Yes, this was my when I was researching San Diego history.
So as you can see,
that's not San Diego.
No, but this is one of them. So as you can see, it's divided into 2 images, and the frame would basically be supported where my hands are, and then there would be something in the middle where basically it makes you look like it's 1 image instead of 2. Basically, that's why you see the crease in the middle.
So the way this works is very complicated. You see, they take 2 cameras right next to each other to take the slightly different camera angles that is needed to make the 3D effect.
Yes.
They take them at the same time, they print them at the same time, and they put them right next to each other. And then they put them on a device, a UMass type of device that we don't have.
Right.
And from there, you can look through a lens, and it takes the images, and from your perspective, it looks like 1 image, and it looks like the image is in 3D.
Yes. So this is one of them. This one is basically, this is from copyright from 1905, and this is Wreck of the Maine and Havana Harbor in Cuba.
Yeah. So started the Cuban War was when the Maine was sunk. So that is a photo of the wreck of the Maine.
Okay, so the others are these are actually the Keystone ones, actually, and these have a little bit of caption. So,
and by the way, it's not Keystone as in the studio.
No,
this is a different Keystone.
Okay, so this one is called Ramona's Marriage Place. Yes. So, do you want me to read the back of it?
Yes, go ahead.
So it says, from a wide popularity in literature, the story of Ramona entered the fields of the photodrama, while the photodrama was the inspiration of a waltz song that swept over the country in a wave of great popularity. Now great interest has again been renewed in Helen Hunt Jackson's book of 47 years ago. So this is more than 47 years ago, but this is from...
This is from Old Town, actually. So it's Ramona's Marriage Place. That's actually Casa de Estudio,
yes,
which is the large one in the middle of the courtyard.
Yes, so we have been there, and I've actually read the book Ramona as well. It
Yes.
says the road on which they must go into old San Diego, where Father Gaspara lived, was the public road from San Diego to San Luis Rey, where they were almost sure to meet travelers upon it. Magella, the chapel is lighted, but that is good, explained Escalandro as they rode into the silent plaza. Father Gaspara must be there, and jumping off his horse, he peered in an uncurtained window. A marriage, Magella, a marriage, he cried, hastily returning. This too is good fortune, we not to wait long. Thus fiction woven the romance of Ramona about the old town of San Diego Old Town, situated about 3 miles north of the modern city, is now in ruin. Only a few adobe buildings remain, the best known of which is the one where Helen Hunt Jackson had her heroine Ramona married. This has been restored and with much care and great expense, and now presents this most charming view. The mission, which was founded in 1769, was the first in California, stands east of the site of the old
Right.
settlement. While the characters of the romance are fictitious, the priest who married them was a character in life. Father Ubach, who married in San Diego 40 years and was much beloved by all who knew him. So, yeah, this is
Okay.
actually.
I didn't realize it was going to tell the entire history of San Diego in that background. Okay, so just let you know the garden that is there. So every single one of these houses, these old Spanish houses, usually had a courtyard in the back, and that
Mhm,
courtyard had, they would have a garden, or they'd have trees, or something. They'd have wells or a place to cook.
mhm,
So this is that garden in the back of the Estudillo house.
right. But yeah, so that I'm not going to read the back on all of these because they're kind of long. But
No, I didn't realize they were that long.
well, this one doesn't have one actually, surprisingly. The one I'm holding right now. So this is another one.
So that is in Balboa Park
Yes,
in
and
1915.
okay, he says, looking toward the Plaza de los Suetros, showing the huge outdoor pipe organ. Okay, so I've seen that before. This is in Balboa Park, so I recognize the pipe organ that's in the background here.
Yes, yes. And so that's how people would look at 3D images.
Yes,
If you go to Old Town, and you walk into a number of these little museums that they have, you'll find a number of them actually have these stereoscopes and these type of pictures.
yes, they normally have them in a sealed case, basically, but it's basically it'll have this, and then some of them have it turned on the back where you can see the back of it, basically.
Right.
But yeah, this is another one. This one is overlooking Los Jardins don Moctezuma from the south balcony of the California Building, Panama, California Exposition, San Diego, California, USA. So this is probably in the early 1900s, basically.
Yeah, about 1915, if I remember, because that's when they first opened the park.
Right. And then this final one is submarines and the foregrounds and battleships and the torpedo boats in the background, San Diego Bay, California. So this is another one.
Yeah, so that's a little bit later in, maybe during the First or Second World War.
This is probably during the First War because of the style of the uniforms that they're wearing here.
Right.
But yeah, basically these would give you a 3D effect. Like I said, they would have there was something be supporting either side of this, and then the viewmaster would be where my hand is right here. And then you would look at it and say, "Oh, I see this, I see that." I mean, if you've ever seen the movie The Blue Lagoon, that there's a version of that in there that the children look through, basically.
Right. And by the way, there was another one. There was another thing that so Universal actually had something called T2 3D, Battle Across Time,
Mhm.
and so I've always said that that is the official third Terminator movie.
Yes.
So like, yeah, and so you go in, and it's a you're waiting in a bunch of queue lines, but it's a large theater inside, and you wait inside. There's all this. It looks very technological,
Hmm.
and you sit down in this large theater, and the walls will even have curtains that I believe there were curtains that moved away, and they would have screens, and
Okay.
the entire it was like a giant IMAX.
Mm-hmm.
It surrounded you.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and and all of that was 3D. All the screens were 3D,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had a live component on top. They had a stage with like a Sarah Connor and a John Connor, and
Okay.
you'd see like the T-1000 come, and yeah. So it was really fun. They had a large. The big baddie in that one was something called the T-1 million, which is like this
Okay.
large spider-like device, this large
Mm-hmm.
spider-like, and it would often poke its tentacles at the audience. So like you
Oh,
feel like
wow.
you'd have to dodge the tentacles.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, and now in Universal they have a 3D King Kong thing. Actually, I believe a lot of the tour in Universal now there's a lot more 3D elements in it now than there used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, they have a 3D King Kong now, which took the place of the large animatronic King Kong that burned down in 2008.
Yes. And I believe that they have some 3D type of shows with, I believe, with the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World kind of things now too.
Most of those are still animatronic though. But
Okay.
yeah, there's definitely like 3D aspects they'll use in a ride now. They'll
Hmm.
definitely do that now in rides.
Right. But yeah, I do remember. So even though I've never been to Epcot or I've never been to Universal at this time, but I do remember that ad of Honey, I Shrunk the Audience one because I do remember the image. I believe it was in a Disney magazine that I had as a kid, or it was somebody that I knew that owned it. And basically, they had the family dog leaping out of the screen and it's going after the audience, basically because the audience so-called is shrunk. That's why it's called Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. And basically you get to see basically you get like almost a kid's perspective that they had in the movie, that basically you get to experience what it was like for them to be shrunk for, I believe they were shrunk for about 24 hours, those kids were. And basically it gives you that perspective from their point of view. You get to see like Auntie the ant, you get to see like giant bugs, giant flowers, because like I said in the movie, if you've never seen it, basically the kids are shrunk to about the size of maybe the palm of your hand, basically. And they're basically trying to get themselves unshrunk because they accidentally got shrunk because of a mishap that happened in their father's laboratory with the next door neighbors. I mean, they're supposed to be doing a remake of it, I believe, with Rick Moranis. So I don't know. I've seen the three films that are out there: Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, I Blew Up the Baby, and then the last one is Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, where the parents, after many many years, they you finally get to see what it would be like for Rick Moranis' character Wayne Selinsky to shrink down and experience what his kids experienced when they were shrunk all those years ago. The only thing I like about that movie is that you get to see a little bit of a young version of certain previously well-known actors now. We get to see a young Mila Kunis. We get to see an actress that I had seen on Smallville, Allison Mack. We get to see her in that. That's a fun movie, even though it's not the same lore as the original ones from the 80s and the 90s, but it's still cute to see. I mean, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience was definitely a very interesting concept for sure, because that's one of the things I mentioned with the Captain EO thing, because sadly that show no longer exists anymore at Disney at this time. There's been people that have cosplayed at it and they do a wonderful job at it, but there's no way they're going to ever recreate that. I mean,
Oh no, no. But I mean, like that's why it's such a special thing, actually.
that makes
But,
sense.
yeah, so let's go ahead and move on. I think we've
Yes,
covered enough of that.
Yes. So now we're going into William Fox and Carl Libley.
Yes. So the segment is it's two segments put into one basically, but the first one talks about William Fox. It talks
Mhm.
about his life. It talks about how he began got into film, and how he started, getting into complications and whatnot. And then same thing with Carl Laemmle.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's sit back and enjoy.
Hurrah! Wilhelm Fried Fuchs was born in January 1st, 1879 in Hungary. At the age of 9 months, he and his family emigrated to the United States. Living in a destitute part of New York, the young Fox had to drop out of school at age 11 to sell candy, newspapers, and later, fur garments to make money for the family. He would make up for his lack of schooling by taking classes at night, but soon quit night school to visit the local vaudeville theaters. He and a friend then came up with their own vaudeville act and tried their hand at performing, but Fox soon lost interest in performing. He continued selling garments and in 1899 changed his name to William Fox and married Eve Leo. In 1900, at the age of 21, he and a partner started their own business where they would pre-shrink cloth for manufacturing, called the Knickerbocker Cloth Examining and Shrinking Company. Within 2 years, the company made $10,000. By 1904, he had bought out his partner's share, then sold the company, amassing almost $50,000. Looking for a new investment, Fox was convinced to purchase a partial share in a 2-story Nickelodeon in Brooklyn, where he renovated the second floor into a theater. At first, it wasn't getting any business. The first day yielded 2 customers, so Fox hired a magician who would perform part of his act outside until a crowd formed. He then announced that he would finish his act inside the building, and soon all 146 seats were filled. He then began renting buildings and converting them into theaters, amassing 15 establishments around Brooklyn. He would buy films from Biograph and Vitagraph, expanded to vaudeville shows, and used magic lanterns to project the lyrics to popular songs. They were so popular that Fox decided to charge 10 cents for admission. There were some difficulties though. Not a lot of people respected the film industry. Fox once said of it, quote, "It was a period when if a boy was arrested for stealing, his attorney found the most convenient defense to be that he learned to commit this crime because he witnessed motion pictures," unquote. In 1906, New York Police Commissioner Theodore Brigham threatened to arrest anyone who worked in the theater on Sundays. Fox had just started a distribution service called the Greater New York Film Rental Company. With his business growing, he fought back and started the Moving Pictures Association, a group consisting of 110 theaters, and sued the city. The New York Supreme Court ruled on the side of the Motion Picture Association, and theaters all over New York could open on Sundays. In Christmas Eve of 1908, the same year the Motion Picture Patents Company was founded, the mayor of New York revoked every moving picture business license. Fox filed an injunction, and the courts sided with Fox, undoing the revocations. In 1910, Fox leased the New York Academy of Music in Manhattan, which used to be a famous opera house, and attempted to have plays performed there, but there were hardly any customers, so he converted it into a theater. Fox's name was now well known, and he soon would turn his legal battles toward the MPPC. In 1911, the president of the General Film Company, the distribution arm of the MPPC, informed him that the MPPC intended to revoke his Greater New York Film Rental Company's license because one of their films was shown at a brothel. This was an attempt to convince Fox to sell the Greater New York Film Rental Company to the General Film Company, who had been buying up these distributors left and right. There were negotiations, and by December 1st, 1911, he had agreed to sell the company for $750,000, and the revocation was lifted. Once it was lifted, Fox reneged on the deal before the sale was finalized, and his license was revoked by Christmas. This was the moment Fox was waiting for. He responded with an injunction alleging that the MPPC was attempting to monopolize film distribution companies by compelling their owners to sell their companies to the General Film Company. If the owners did not sell, the MPPC would simply kick them out of the industry by revoking their license. He used the revocation of his own company's license as evidence. Regardless of the evidence, the judge denied it, saying that the MPPC had the right to do business with whomever they chose, but did acknowledge that the MPPC, quote, may constitute an illegal monopoly, unquote. In August 1912, the Justice Department sued the MPPC for breaking the Sherman Antitrust Act and began an investigation into their business dealings. Fox helped to fund the investigation. The case went to trial in December 1914. The trial would continue until October of 1915, when the District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania found the MPPC guilty of violating antitrust laws. However, the MPPC would appeal. Carl Laemmle was born in 1867 in what is now modern-day Germany. He was the 10th of 13 children, but 8 of his siblings died before adulthood. At 13, he got an apprenticeship with S.G. Heller, which was far from home, but Carl went with it anyway. In 1883, his mother died, and prompted by that, he left for the United States the following year and arrived in New York with only $15 and changed the spelling of his name to Carl Laemmle. Once in New York, he began looking for his brother who had previously arrived in the U.S. Carl wrote to a newspaper in Chicago, hoping that they could track him down, and it just so happened that his brother worked for the same paper. Carl moved there to Chicago and took on a number of odd jobs, including a farmer, a bookkeeper, and by 1898, he was working at a clothing shop, eventually becoming a U.S. citizen. While at the clothing shop, he married his boss's daughter, and together they had 2 kids. Bored of his jobs by 1906, he quit them and had thought about opening a chain of retail stores until he walked into his first Nickelodeon. Realizing there was a growing industry there, he started one of the first moving pictures theater in Chicago called the White Front. He then started a distribution company called the Laemmle Film Service in order to distribute prints to his and other theaters. When the General Film Company tried to buy out Laemmle Film Service, he refused, and his license was revoked by the MPPC. Carl then made the jump from exhibiting and distributing pictures to producing them when he moved back to New York and started the Independent Moving Pictures Company. In 1910 and in 1912, the MPPC sued Laemmle's company for patent infringement. Laemmle lost the first lawsuit, but won the second lawsuit and had the patent for the Latham loop invalidated. Later that year, he merged IMP with the Powers Motion Picture Company, the Champion Film Company, the Rex Motion Picture Company, the Nestor Film Company, and the New York Motion Picture Company to create a whole new motion picture company. After looking out his New York window into Union Square and seeing a delivery truck that said Universal Pipe Fitting, Laemmle renamed the Independent Motion Picture Company to the Universal Film Manufacturing Company. His first studio was in Fort Lee, New Jersey, but it was soon closed in 1912. That same year, Laemmle traveled to Los Angeles to visit his newly acquired Nestor Studios, renaming it Universal Studios. Laemmle then opened a studio at the Oak Crest Ranch in the San Fernando Valley and named it Universal City. In order to generate word of mouth, he added a zoo to the ranch and allowed certain well-known people to visit. However, the Oak Crest Ranch location proved far too small for Laemmle's filming needs, and in 1914, he bought the 230-acre Taylor Ranch in San Fernando Valley, moved all of his operations there, and dubbed it his new Universal City Studios. Apart from the sound stages, Universal City operated like a city. It had its own fire department, police department, and post office. Just before Universal Studios opened to the public, Laemmle traveled to New York and then took a 10-day cross-country promotional trip back to Los Angeles, picking up friends, family, and business partners on the way. Over 10,000 people greeted Laemmle when he finally arrived back at Universal City. On day one, crowds arrived via streetcars and automobiles. At 10 a.m., actress Laura Oakley, acting as Universal City's police chief, presented Laemmle with a gold key to unlock the gates amid the national anthem, flags, and flowers. After speeches, there was a cowboy parade and a beauty contest. Then there were tours of the facilities and live filming demonstrations where visitors cheered from the bleachers. The ceremonies were open and free to everyone. Utilizing the former chicken ranch, for a nickel you could have boxed chicken for lunch. Afternoon highlights included a rodeo, mock battles, and a flash flood. Engineered by the 101 Bison Company, the flash flood was a recreation of one they had done for the film The Torrent, starring Marie Wellcamp, who was one of many on set to perform the stunt. The flood released 60,000 to 130,000 gallons of water, destroying a mock western town set as planned. However, it got a little out of hand, flooding parts of the lot. Marie Wellcamp on horseback was almost swept away by the flood, and Carl Laemmle was said to have stepped on top of a car to avoid getting wet. There were injuries, but they were minor. Afterwards, there was a basic flyover of Universal City by pilot Frank Stites, with Laemmle on board with him. However, the flight was limited by high winds. The evening ended with a grand ball led by Laemmle and stars like Grace Kennard and Lon Chaney. Day 2 resumed with tours and a post-lunch rodeo. Pilot Frank Stites was tasked with recreating a flying stunt he had performed for the film The Mysterious Contragrav. He was to drop a fake bomb down on a dummy plane, which would then explode. Thousands were there to view the performance live. Just before his flight, screenwriter Grover Jones let Stites borrow his hat with the assurance that Stites wouldn't get any grease on it. At 4:12 p.m., he ascended into the air. He dropped the bomb and the plane blew up as planned, but the explosion created a vacuum of air which destabilized Stites' plane and caused him to lose control of it at about 300 feet, and the plane began to come down. The crowd, still believing it was part of the stunt, applauded. Frank Stites had survived plane crashes before. He had been building and flying his own planes since 1908, and by 1915 had established himself as an experienced and very lucky aviator. However, he may not have been in the right mind to fly that day. Just a few days prior, a friend of his had died of a crash while performing at the Panama Pacific International Exposition in San Francisco. Upon hearing of his death, Stites had quipped, quote, "I guess I'll be the next one," unquote. There were some conflicting accounts, but at about 60 to 150 feet from the ground, Stites either jumped or fell from the plane and hit the ground hard, breaking just about every bone in his body and leaving him a bloody pulp. His plane crashed afterwards on a nearby berm next to where the sign shop is currently located. He was pronounced dead on scene at 4:30 p.m. When Grover Jones received his hat back, it had been stained, but not with grease. This death signaled the end of opening celebrations for Universal Studios. Frank's wife Jessie sued Universal that year and won $5,000. Frank Stites was probably one of the first stuntmen to die in cinema. While not working together, Fox and Laemmle were the MPPC's two largest hurdles. The constant lawsuits between Laemmle, Fox, and the MPPC eventually gave the federal government enough evidence to launch an investigation. With Fox funding the investigation, they were able to bring the investigation to trial, resulting in a guilty verdict, and because of that verdict, Laemmle and Fox, along with many others like Lowe and Zukor, were free to open their own studios without fear. Yep. So that's that was Frank Stites. That was the story of Frank Stites and his life.
Yes.
Basically.
So yes, in case you missed it from our previous episode last month, that we basically did discuss about Frank Stites in full, except for this final part. So yes, unfortunately, poor Frank Stites ended very tragically.
Yeah, and So just the day before, so this was like the second or third day. So just the day before, uh, he had actually gone up on the flight on the flight with Carl Laemmle,
Hmm.
and uh, and it was supposed to be longer, but it was cut short because the winds were too high. He they
Right.
so they landed. But just think of that timeline. Just think of that alternative timeline where like you would have lost him and Carl the same day
Yikes.
on the day that the studios would have. I'm not sure if Universal would have survived that.
I don't think so. I don't think it'd be widely respected as it is today.
So what you're seeing here is a map of the Taylor Ranch. It's like with the former Taylor Ranch,
Hmm.
uh, chicken ranch that was converted into a movie studio.
Wow.
Um, over here, you can see my cursor, can you?
Yes.
All right, so my cursor is right here, and right here is the gate.
Okay.
This is the original front gate to Universal,
Hmm.
right? And then the road goes here, and there's this road here is back then it was called Laemmle Road or Laemmle Lane or whatever.
Okay.
It's now called James Stewart Avenue.
Ah, okay. So they named it for Jimmy Stewart, the actor.
Yeah, this obviously like other roads nowadays, other roads stem from this road as well,
Okay.
but it follows it all the way down here, and this is like kind of a little similar to how they do the tour. They uh, they always treat this as the main road, uh, but then when you get over here, what this is now, this part of the road here, which is Lemley Road or whatever,
Hmm.
this is now New York Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and where the zoo is right here, it says zoo. That's
Yes.
actually where the courthouse square is.
Oh, okay.
That's where the former Back to the Future set is sitting.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, and if you remember the famous the famous partying of the Red Sea is right here next to it.
Nice.
Yes. So Frank crashed at around somewhere around this area here.
Mm.
The sign, I believe, the sign department is here somewhere. What you're seeing here are water tanks. These circles are water tanks.
Okay.
So so when they flooded that area to and destroyed the mock town and everything for show,
Hmm.
they basically emptied out one of these tanks, probably this one, and just emptied it all out.
Wow.
Yeah, and as I said, there was an actress there that was um, that was there to perform. Her name is Marie Wellcamp. You know, the saddest thing about another sad thing about all of these movies that we're referring to, they're all gone. They're all lost.
Yes, that's unfortunate. I mean, the Frank Stites one, that one unfortunately is lost. It probably was destroyed on purpose by
I
his widow and child.
I don't. Well, now we're speculating, but I mean, like, but I mean, we don't even. Yeah, like, so we don't even have any of Marie Wellcamp's movies.
Right.
Uh, the movies that she was promoting there, those movies are gone.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean,
Yeah, and so like a little bit more, you see, in that one you saw pictures where there was like a large stage, and in
yes.
those stages back then, when because it was there were silent films, you can do like 4 or 5 productions on a single stage at the same time,
Right.
and so and so this main stage, that's what they would do, and they had a second stage over here next to the zoo as well.
Okay.
Um, this staff cafe at one point became like one of the oldest city structures in the building, but it's since gone. Or old structures in the lot, but it's since gone now.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so when you see like the large stage over where they're doing a lot of stuff, it's usually on this one over here, right next to the main
Okay.
entrance. And yeah, they would you know you would park right here, this dirt lot,
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'd pay your fee to go in. You'd sit up in the bleachers and you'd watch a bunch of movies get made.
Hmm.
At lunch, you have yourself a chicken lunch.
Right.
You know, and then at the end of the day, you're like, well, I can't. I hope to see that movie in theater one day.
Right. I mean, so it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. So there's a computer game that we've played, which we haven't played in months and stuff like that. But basically, it tells you about how a film was made. And we got to play that, and it showed us the evolution of a film studio all the way from the 1920s up to the present day, which was, I think, was the 70s, I think, as far as it went to. And basically, we got to see how they would build and renew sets constantly and these
Right.
stages as well. I mean, they would transform it for whatever movie it was. Like it, one scene it might be a western. The next time you come around, it might be an office setting. Another time, when you see it again, it might be something totally different altogether. And that's the beauty of these sound stages, that they could repurpose them multiple times, and you would never know it was the same place, basically.
Right. And this is what Universal looks like now. Actually, so obviously they've expanded from the original ranch
Yes.
uh, to include a whole theme park, which is so there's an upper lot where it's on the area that's on top of like a terrace,
Hmm.
and that area is where the theme park is. That's where the city walk is. It's where the parking lot is and whatnot. And then the lower area is usually where all the sound stages and sets are.
Nice.
Uh, and this would be the lower area here. And you could see there's a large escalator system that can take you down there. Here's
Right.
James Stewart Avenue. It's the same shape.
Wow.
The area right here where the original stage used to be is now a parking lot.
Wow.
Uh, the sign shop is somewhere around this area. So
Okay.
like around where he crashed. This is Jurassic World the ride, I believe, or this area here. I mean,
Hmm.
so the Psycho House is over here, and what's left of the Red Sea is actually it. So the part that used to part is now been filled in,
Wow.
and so this is like it's now smaller than it was. There's another area around here that used to have water. I don't see it right here for some. Oh, it's right in this area, but it barely has any water anymore. Like
Oh,
I
wow.
think I think they just fill it up for movies now. But that's where the Truman Show was filmed.
Okay.
Yeah, that area where that last part of the movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, so stuff like that. So like yeah, it's I mean it's still going. It's still strong. It's never gonna go away.
Right. I mean, that's the beauty thing about Universal, that it's been reused and repurposed in multiple ways. I mean,
Yes.
we mentioned how it's Courthouse Square. Well, you're probably thinking, well, why is it called Courthouse Square when there's technically no courthouse? Well, the thing is, it was used as a courthouse in the 1960 version of To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck.
Yes.
And then years before that, it was used in a horror film involving a giant tarantula, if I remember correctly.
Well, that that was not the like the courthouse wasn't there at the time, but
That's what I'm saying.
they used that area. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's reused over and over again. Sure, we recognize it now today as Courthouse Square, but it has all this history with it. I mean, more modern users who see it might say, "Oh, wait, I recognize that. That's from the Ted series," or someone else might say, "Oh, I recognize that from the Gremlins." Well, that's basically what we're saying, that this was a facade, that it's multi usage, basically, that it serves multi purposes.
Right. So, but yeah, and even in the 20s and 30s, the 20s would look different from the 30s depending
Yes.
on the back lot and what was up and what was not up anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I think that's just about it.
Yeah, you finished with your map?
Yeah, I'm finishing
Okay.
up my map.
All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, my dear. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about it. I mean, learn about this history of film. I mean, like we said, that 3D goes back to the 1830s. We also learn about Carl Laemmle. We also learn about, William Fox. I mean, they had very humble beginnings and they never forgot where they came from.
Fox was such a cute baby.
He reminds me so much of Baby Gomez of the Addams Family.
I think that's probably what the AI was going for.
I think so. I mean, we really don't. So that's one of the AI things that we will do, folks. But some of it was not AI. I mean,
We went between actual pictures and
right.
footage as well as AI stuff. Yes.
So the one that created the 1830s version of the 3D that I mentioned, basically that is an actual image of him. Now, did he ever actually use the device that he came up with? He probably did, but it was never documented officially in this case. But yeah, I mean, like I said, in the next episode, it looks like you're going to be discussing about Marcus Lowe and then Louis B. Mayer. And I have two segments of my own. One is about the vending and concession stands. I mean, we always think, oh, vending machines, they're a modern day. Well, actually, no, they go back much further than that. And then we're also going to be discussing some of these child actors. So, some people that have been child actors, you probably think, oh, Shirley Temple, Jodie Foster. A lot of these child actors are, yes, those are the well known ones, but there's also a couple that I will mention that were not so well known that unfortunately that they're known as the Edison kids, that basically that they were literally picked off the slums and Edison would hire them to do a film, and then after the scene is finished and everything, after they finish their hour of work or whatever, they give them, like, say something to eat and say, okay, now go back. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and have a nice life. Hope you don't die, kind of thing. And unfortunately, those kids did not have very happy endings. I mean, one of them I mentioned in my segment that child Sally did not get to live past 15 because of pneumonia. Certain ones they had to basically fight to get their monies. I mean, the reason why we have child labor laws for child actors is because of a child actor himself who was working, but he was stolen of the money that he was earning from his own family members. I mean, we're jokingly saying about how the baby looks like little Gomez Adams. Well, the thing is, the one that played young Fester Adams in the 1960s version of the Adams Family, he himself was a child actor. And
Uh,
because,
Jackie Coulier, if I remember his name.
let me double check the name. I believe, let me check what his name was because I have my notes right here beside of me, actually.
Yeah. So he was in the kid. He was the kid in the kid, and he did some other stuff as well as a child. And later on, uh, later on, he became Fester Adams in the Adams Family TV show.
Yes, Jackie Coogan, you are correct. So,
Coogan, yes.
but yes, we will find out about him. Like I said, so here's the thing. If you look up child actors from the 1890s all the way up to the 1920s, this is at least 10 years prior to Shirley Temple. There are literally hundreds of kids, and not all of them are credited. I try to highlight some of the ones that stood out. I did about 16 of them, I believe, but there's so many of them. I mean, they paved the way. I mean, some of them had to play the parts of boys and they were themselves a girl. I mean, it wasn't because of they're trying to be, weird like that. It's just that's the way they did it. I mean, that's very similar to the Shakespearean era when you would see boys playing the part of girls, or when you think about the early versions of Peter Pan, they always say, "Oh, Peter Pan's always played by a boy." Well, no, Peter Pan used to be played by a female because if you know the story of Peter Pan is basically a kid that's about 10 or 11 years old, so he's pre-puberty age, and his voice has not officially changed into a manhood voice, and he sounds more adult. So that's why a woman could play that part and play the part of, say, Peter. So this was something very similar in those eras where these girls would play the parts of boys and they could get away with it. It wasn't they were just trying to be weird. It's just they felt it was easier to do it that way. But that's going to be something we're going to discuss next time. And yeah, I mean, so that's going to be next month. That will be obviously the fourth Saturday of the month. Then after that, we will go into Adolf Zukor and Jesse Lasky about movie piracy, music, and how they play a role in films. We're also going to talk about the Warner Brothers, the African American studios, the fall of the NPC radio, and then we will take a brief break during the month of January next year, and then come back and have our second segment. So we're going to be going on a trip in October, and basically we'll get to experience Universal Studios, the VIP, and document a lot of stuff that we're discussing in these segments and show it to you guys so you can say, oh, this is what it looks like. This is where this is. This is where that is.
Yes.
I mean, I've never been there myself. I've only been there virtually, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, yes, we'll definitely make it over there. And speaking of Jesse Lasky, just to show you right here, I have his book. This is his autobiography. I Blow My Own Horn by Jesse Lasky. He put this book came out like months before he died.
Wow.
Months before he died. As his son also has his own book about being raised as a son of a movie tycoon, and how he was able to get a comfortable writing career from that. So I'm reading both of those, and can't wait to give you what I got.
Nice. That's
Also, Cecil B. DeMille. I'm reading his autobiography as well.
very cool.
Yes. So I think that about covers it.
I think so, my dear. So thank you all so much for tuning in for all of us. We appreciate that so much. We are the dream team. I'm Alicia. That's my husband, Art, or Jack. And yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, thanks for rolling with us. I'm Art,
I'm Alicia.
and we'll see you in the next reel.